Hi, everyone. Welcome to Type Talks. Today we have our lovely guest, Catherine Faber, and we're here to talk about the scientific study we have embarked on together. Catherine has done a lot to bring science to the field of the Enneagram. Her Ennea style questionnaire is actually based on the studies she's conducted. This is Catherine's 24th study so far, so she's really a veteran in this.
Curious person. And it's really all due to my psychology teacher, a senior in high school, who had us all do empirical research that was based on qualitative. And because that was in my reservoirs when I was trying to learn about typologies in general, and even just as an executive in the cosmetic industry, I want to know, wait, why are these people having these particular issues? This is like no big deal to an 8, but it was a big deal to a 4 or a type that was a 6 and sensitive to not being treated fairly the way they should have been. So I used conflict management, but I was still just absolutely fascinated by who I had to do conflict management with and why, and also the people I interviewed and hired and how they fit into different accounts. And so I just got everybody engaged, from buyers to division managers to the people at store level, department managers, store managers. I got everyone involved because it was just these short questions. And when I said what I could learn from it, then they all were on board. But they did know me. I had worked in the industry for quite a number of years and had already done atypical things. But the first study I did actually was on the idealized image and the core fears of the types before I ever learned the Enneagram.
Mm-hmm.
When I learned the Enneagram, then I thought, wow, these clusters are the same. So yeah, that kept me going thereafter.
Yeah, and so that is all to say we have a call to action to the audience members who hear this. We would love to have your response on our study that we are conducting, and you have a chance to win a $50 gift card if you do too, and you will also be supporting the scientific future of type itself. And what nobler an aim is that? I will even share my screen to show the audience how it looks like. So it'll take approximately 5 to 10 minutes to fill out, and it is looking at the intersection between your MBTI, Enneagram type, tri-type, instinct, and your vocabulary. As you see here, we're giving a little bit of a preview. You will get to input all of this
You
basic.
want the demographics though, because they make a huge difference. I learned that in different parts of the world, different parts of the country or the state, they were settled by different people who had values. And so it is important where you are and where you grew up. So that's why we ask, because it does give additional data about the types.
Yeah, and currently we have 555 people who've already responded. And so we're hoping to get over 1,000. So help us reach that goal, and we will be very indebted to you.
Please, please, please do, because I have 1,000 responses from the study I did in 2014, just like 1,200 responses. But when we're looking at tri-type and the 16 types, we need more. Really, I'd like 100,000 to see the common denominators. We can guesstimate and we can make educated guesses, but the more responses we have, the more confluent it will be. Because people who don't know one another that choose the same adjectives is a very meaningful thing. And we do ask everyone 5 adjectives they'd use to describe themselves to a total stranger, not who they could be, should be, want to be, or have become, but that you that was there at 5, 10, 15, 20, however old you are now is important, of course, because we change. But I'm looking, and this study with Joyce is looking at the you that was always there, inexperienced or experienced.
Mm. Yeah, and this will also help you with strengthening your self-awareness of yourself too. So double whammy there. And so here's the second section. This is where you'll be talking about all things MBTI related. As we move past that, we will get to your Enneagram type. Now, you'll see here that it'll ask you how long you've been studying, how certain you are.
This is important too, because I mean, I would also like to ask, but we didn't because everything takes longer, is where you learned, because people will answer according to the teacher they learned from or the approach they learned or where they learned. Like some people learn in a group setting, other people learn in a coaching setting, and others learn online. And all these things influence how we define these types. So I will say the test itself takes 5 minutes. You just have to say, I'm this, or this. Certain, uncertain, to what degree of certain. But actually knowing which tri-type you are and which instinctual type you are, as well as which MBTI type you are, does take a little more time. So if you don't know, we make things available to you where you can find out should you want. But we're looking at the correlation. So anyone that has any inkling at all of the two, don't worry if you're not absolutely certain, because that's a question we ask. It might still be incredibly meaningful if there are a lot of people that are uncertain but give the same adjectives. So this research, because it's empirical on a qualitative approach, everything will lead to a possible something down the way. And so there isn't a perfect right or wrong. So if you know, that's great. If you have a pretty good idea, but you know one and are uncertain of the other, that's okay. We're going to ask.
Exactly. Have all our bases checked. And so as you move down, you'll see that there are questions about, did you ever think you were another Enneagram type? And then the next one looks very similar and it confuses people, but it actually is talking about, have others ever thought you were another Enneagram type? So the first one is about you and whether or not you have. And then the second one is about the perception that you've had reflected back to you by other people. And so filling this out really would help us with understanding some really key correlations. So we're infinitely grateful if you go
And
for it.
Process, Joyce, of how they got to their type, because we didn't just read the paragraphs of the types in any category and then just say, oh, I'm that. Well, some types do, but for the most part, most people think, am I this one or am I this one? And so even what you consider is important in helping people down the line accurately type, because there are patterns to what we will identify with, especially with tri-type. And I know with looking at the 16 types, we can look at a description that covers a lot, but we might be close on two. And we want to know that, because that may be a very strong correlation to a tri-type. So as I've said, and we'll say too much, everything matters.
It really does. And you'll see here that we tackle the instinctual stackings. And then after that, we do tri-type. And so Catherine Faber is the creator of tri-type we have in front of our eyes right now. This is a really cool concept where you have a type that's most prominent in you in all of the centers of intelligence. So one from the head, one from the gut, and one from the heart. And so that makes up your tri-type. As I scroll down, we are hitting the very end of this survey. And so as you see, it is a very short and sweet one. And you really help type and its future by filling it out. So I'll have the link in the description. I think it'll be really fun to fill out too. It doesn't require much work on your end, and it's a great way to support the creators that you've loved, because this is a collaboration between us and you wonderful people.
It's not just our opinions, it's what you say. And then we both know both systems. So as a result, we're going to see things that are meaningful. that you can contribute that we wouldn't know without you. I mean, all my research required willing participants, or I wouldn't have known the clusters. I wouldn't have found the tri-types, or that the instinct is more dominant than the type. All that came out of qualitative research. So yes, very much appreciate. And so what Joyce was also saying is that if you're willing to be interviewed, we ask you that question. If you happen to say something like other people that you don't know, then we're going to want to find out more why. And like when people were identifying more with the triggering of an instinct than they were the type, it made sense because the instinct, the subtype, was based on the more primitive expression. But even Naranjo, who came up with the subtypes, didn't think of it as the triggering force. He just knew that we needed to consider the primitive perspective, not just the ego perspective. So it all wove together beautifully. And we can't find that out if we don't have participants. And if you're enthusiastic about these typologies and you want to type more accurately to gain the gifts and the benefits of what your tri-type offers and strategies for working with how your tri-type gets stuck, and the same thing with your personality type. Like if you're really close, like I am with the ENTP and the ENFP, what is the distinguishing factor? And it's huge. And it's true with type, it's true with instinct, and it's true with tri-type. So we want to know all of it. More is better for me, but that's just my personal perspective, because then I can challenge myself on any preconceived ideas I have. You'll trigger things I need to think about further.
Yeah.
And it will be comparing the findings from 10 years ago that were based on 1,000 people, but they were predominantly Enneagram first. And we're looking to have both equally represented. Those who started with MBTI or the 16 types versus starting with the Enneagram. We want equal representation.
Yeah, so come along with us and join the journey of figuring out all of these wonderful concepts like tri-type, Enneagram, MBTI, and how they intersect. Catherine and I, we dive into this in our course coming up in January. It's an introduction to the correlations between tri-type and MBTI, and it'll be listed on her website. That'll be linked below. And we also have a certification coming up too, and so stay tuned for that. All right. Well, it was great chatting with you all. We'll see you in the next video. Take care. Thank you.